Sri Lanka's fashion industry was described as robust and strong at Colombo Fashion Week. And certainly it is a burgeoning industry given that 22 local designers showcased their creations at Colombo Fashion Week, which is seen as a platform for fashion in Asia. And then there's the Sri Lanka Design Festival. This is billed as the largest annual celebration of Sri Lanka design, fashion, craft and apparel. With me in the studio today is the person who mooted Sri Lanka Design Festival, the head of the Academy of Design, Linda Speldevin. So good to have you on Benchmark, Linda. Now, in the recent past, we have seen a growing interest in the fashion and design industry. And of course, we have produced quite a number of talented designers who have even shown internationally. What do you attribute this to?
Yes, I think what we are starting to see, Savitri, is I guess the results of 10 years worth of work that's been happening in this sector. So I guess like any sector, what happens is it needs to go through a process of professionalization, if you like. So what's happened is education came into play in the fashion and design sector back in year 2001. So the moment you have education, then you can start talking about a serious profession. So what happened with education, the younger generation started, getting into design, starting to realize the seriousness of design. Then industry started to also recognize that design could be a value addition. Look, we can improve our packaging with design and produce a better product. And we could improve our, apparel with fashion and then produce a better product. So that kind of thinking was coming into play. And then the younger generation, parents started to also recognize that this is worth investing in as an education. So through that, obviously, younger, more qualified designers have been coming out and really truly educated designers, if you like. And I think that has upped the whole skill level in fashion design. So I think over the last 10 years, the Academy of Design, we have been doing it. Morato University started in 2004. So with all these many efforts, the design and fashion talent that's coming out today is obviously much greater, and much more than it's ever been.
Like you said, education is a fundamental to develop any industry. But now, even though the fashion industry is becoming popular, students living in the rural areas may not have access to the education or the career paths that the fashion industry can give them. In fact, they may be left out in the cold. What is the advice you would give young students who are really interested in creations, in creative arts and in fashion and design? What would you give them? What is the advice you would give them, and what are the career paths they could follow if they are interested in it?
It is now, the last 10 years we've just worked on obviously getting it to a particular point, and now, like you quite rightly say, it's very restricted to Colombo and Kandy and that kind of region. So now it's about taking the message out there, and one of the ways is going and conducting workshops within these schools. So that has to depend on us and Morato University and the people who are working in this sector right now. So I think other than going out there and engaging them, it's a little difficult to think that you're going to have something in Colombo and that they're all going to come to you and get briefed on what it is. But it's also a gradual process. The more people get employed, then the word gets out there, and then the more students really realize that this is actually a profession and get to know more about it. But through exhibitions, through workshops, that's the way to get the message out there, I believe.
You also mentioned about the ancillary opportunities that arise in fashion and design, for example, whether they are graphic artists or whether they are photographers. There are lots of paths that these children can follow, but at the end of the day, there are fundamentals in education that need to be done. Firstly, how does one persuade parents to encourage their child to go into this industry and tell them that this is not just simply frivolity but actually a career path? And secondly, what are the opportunities out there for these students to actually go into and seek their niche, so to speak?
It's quite a challenge still, because the design and fashion sector is just about 10 years old, 10 to 12 years old, this new emerging sector in Sri Lanka. So it is a challenge for kids to convince their parents still to come and invest in an education in design. It's not that parents don't see the value in an undergraduate degree, they just don't see the value in educating 3 years worth of time, money, effort to get a full bachelor's degree in design or fashion, they are only starting to see that now. And that can only come from actually these designers being employed and actually earning, you know, substantial salaries, being financially successful, like every other profession. Fashion and design has to start delivering that, and that's what we also focus on, you know. If it can't deliver that, can't make your kid financially successful like they would if they study medicine or any other sector, no parent is really going to want to invest in that, because at the end of the day, that's what they want your kid to be. I mean, you know, find a path that's going to make them financially and professionally successful.
One of the primary quandaries facing Sri Lanka's national development aspirations is in getting equality in rural empowerment. Now, countries like India, Bangladesh, even Peru encourage their top designers to go into the rural areas and start rural empowerment programs. Now, what is the situation like in Sri Lanka, Linda?
Well, in Sri Lanka, actually, the positive is the government, I think, has started to recognize that design can be a huge value addition, and then it can be used to uplift the quality of product and then make it obviously a product that market demands by using design, and therefore engage the rural economy as well in using design in their product. So what happens at the moment is, I think from us, we constantly have requests from the public sector or the government sector. We have an enormous amount of work we are dragged into on a daily basis. Come engage with the cottage industry, get involved in this project, that project, you know, and all of the all of these kind of projects they are trying to do. So actually, there is a push from the public sector to push designers to get involved with the SME sector, with the cottage industry. Like you say, in India, it happens, designers work at a grassroots level. So it's starting to happen in Sri Lanka as well. I mean, we work at a very grassroots level all of the time. So it's just a matter of time, I feel, before it starts being public knowledge that it's happening.
According to the Department of Census and Statistics, Jaffna and Batticaloa in particular have a significantly higher number of people living in poverty. In fact, the North and East continue to lag behind in terms of development for obvious reasons, and therefore have a fairly large percentage of people living in poverty. What are the particular strengths and what are the opportunities you see in the industry of fashion and design that can be brought into these areas to bring in rural empowerment?
What the North has is, it kind of has a lot of projects that have started in a post-war situation. So they also have a lot of livelihood projects that are really already starting to happen. There's a lot of skill training that's happening. So I think there is a lot of talent in the North that is untapped in terms of labor and in terms of creative talent, or whatever you name it, you know, it's a whole untapped area. So you find like even organizations like, you know, the apparel big companies going out there trying to use the labor talent. Similarly, like organizations like ourselves, we go and try to revive the cottage industry. So I would say the North has many opportunities right now, you know, and it's a whole new area, if you like, you know.
We'll be back after a short commercial break, and we'll continue with the founder of the Academy of Design, Linda Speldevin.
If you're looking for a leasing company to make your wheels go round, with fast, friendly and hassle-free service, together with flexibility and the best interest rates in town, let us show you how we can make your world go round. People's Leasing Company. We're the #1 in leasing because pleasing people is our #1 priority.
Now, remix the way you connect with the new Mobitel Remix. Enjoy free M2M voice minutes, SMS data, VAS minutes and 50% discounts on excess data and 3 fabulous add-on prepaid packages. Dial #649# to activate. Mobitel, we care always.
In our second half of Spotlight, we have with us UK's Young Fashion Entrepreneur Award winner and also the founder of Academy of Design, Linda Spelderwin, who has been talking to us earlier about rural empowerment and the role that fashion and design can play in ensuring development for youth as well as the macro national economy. Linda, the fashion industry can often be quite an expensive career path. Now, if a young person is looking to actually follow the industry or get into the industry, a rural youth or even, somebody who needs a cost-effective solution, are there any programs, any sponsored programs, social community programs they can get into to at least hone their fundamentals before they get into the big league?
Yes, actually, fashion and design is, it's not any expensive, any more expensive than any other program, but it's just that, if rural youth, it is across, I guess, any undergraduate discipline, isn't it? You can't, not everybody in the rural areas can afford private sector education. And the challenge here is in fashion and design, there is no public sector education. And I think that's why there are no opportunities. Otherwise, even if you take an area like management or a profession like that, still if there was no public sector education in that area, the rural youth would find it difficult, isn't it? So I think the public sector for fashion and design is only starting to happen. We are helping the government a little bit to set up some vocational training programs in the vocational institutes across the country. So that should happen quite fast actually in the next year or two, I would think.
The tourism industry is growing apace, as we know, and as a result there are these other germane ancillary industries that actually have cropped up because of it, whether it's event management, entertainment, culinary arts, it all. How can we bring fashion and design into this formula?
Yeah, I think the tourism industry is obviously one industry that really can help the fashion, design, the craft sector. And it has a nice synergy because, as you know, our Sri Lanka tourism, whatever we are trying to build the Sri Lanka tourism brand around sustainable tourism, cultural tourism and all of that, And so when you talk of all that, the cottage industry, when you talk about social sustainability, the cottage industries fall into play nicely, And when you talk about culture, the craft fall into play. So actually the tourism sector and I think all this fashion and design sector have a nice synergy there. And one of the ways we are looking at is using all this fashion, design, craft to be a supply source to the tourism sector. And they are also looking at it quite positively because they do not want to import product from Thailand, Vietnam and all these places. They want to use our local product, but they just don't have properly designed, produced quality product. And that's where the matchmaking is happening right now. So I believe that is like the tourism sector is like an export industry at your doorstep, isn't it? It's like an export market like that you can really supply to without leaving the country. So actually that's, I think, that's a synergy we could see there, that could be matched.
Now, Linda, you have started some of these rural empowerment projects. You've been involved in the Peshakala Weaving Centre, for example. Given this experience, what are the issues, the problems, the challenges that you've come across in setting these up and sustaining the project?
That is also the reason that has to be managed at grassroots. You're quite right, actually. You need to be sitting on the floor with that person next to them, telling them, look, you need to be, you need to make them believe in it. That, together we can work and do this, and look, you're going to have a brighter future as a result of it. And that only can come, like you say, otherwise if they do, it's very difficult to get them motivated. But once they trust you, it's very easy. And they have pressures of looking after their kids, they are the sole breadwinner of the family. That's why I feel sometimes it's almost irresponsible of any organization to go out there, train them. Just do a project, you get the funding to do the project and you're just out of there because you got a project, you got your livelihood sorted out and you're just out of there not thinking of the long term of that particular person's life you went into, So I think, if you are not, you're not committed to that, it's almost that you shouldn't be really doing that,